guys, it's Jenny with the Go Box, and today I'm here to teach you the cutest hedgehog painting, which I'm going to throw in front of the screen right now. And I'm going to teach you every step of that painting, and we get to mix some colors, throw a bunch of flowers on there, and just make it really cute. And everybody's is going to be slightly different. Mine won't, even though I designed this, it won't look exactly the same. It'll be slightly different because I'm starting from scratch on a blank canvas, just like you guys are. So if you ordered the kit, you'll have 5 colors that come in these cool little bottles. So we've got your 3 primary colors, blue, yellow, and red, and then you'll have black and white also, which I apparently don't have those nearby me, so I don't have them to put up here. This should be about 3 months supply, give or take, with the kids kit that the subscription box. So this should last through your next 3 project offerings we do in the next 3 months. Let me just try to reword that. This should be enough paint to get you through the next 3 months, but if you need a little bit more of a certain color, just let us know. So let's go ahead and talk about this project. We've got the hedgehog with the light blue sky, lots of flowers around, and it's really easy to put together actually, just like most of our kids' paintings are. I'm gonna pull my paint over here so you can see my colors. Yellow, red, blue, black, and white. And you'll be amazed at how many colors you can mix with just these 5 colors. One of my favorite things to do is to color chart. And so one day I sat down, and I could have kept going and going and going, but I made a color chart of different colors you can mix with just these colors. So you can see there's all kinds of different blues and yellows, oranges and greens, and you can even make different shades of brown. So we're going to actually make a brown shade for the hedgehog body, but not quite yet. So I'll teach you how to do all of that. Let me throw this color chart aside, but it is nice to know you can mix different colors for the flowers. You don't have to do the exact same colors I'm doing on mine. I probably won't do the exact same colors that I did on the original either. So let's take a look at our brushes. You should have a paper towel or some kind of old paint rag to dry your brushes off. Some old water cup or some old mug or cup or jar or something to wash your paintbrushes in and not drink off of. And then I have 3 brushes. I just like to use small, medium, and large. Sometimes when I'm teaching kids, I call them dad, mom, and baby, just to make it easy. But you can call them whatever you want. So I'm gonna take the biggest brush first, and I'm going to mix up a pale blue color. So this blue is really going to tint the white really fast, so you don't need much at all. Just pull it a little bit aside and then stir some white into there. We do use white most of all in this painting, and it's only for mixing. If you look at the original painting, there's not a lot of white showing in the painting itself, but there's a lot of colors that we mix white into. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a little glop of this. About a spoonful of a spoonful of paint. You might need a little more, you might not need quite this much, but I made a really pale sky blue. I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm going to use the skinny edge of this brush to just sort of sketch out what looks like a mountain shape, but it's really the body of the hedgehog. So it's like a tall, not pointy mountain. It's like a rounded mountain. Sometimes I'll call this shape a ghost shape because it really is. It's like a ghost, a little round hump. So we have a lot of animals that start off that way in the painting class, and just calling it a ghost shape works really good for the kids. Let's mark off where we want the top of the head to be. It's right about in the middle. So I'm going to use the skinny edge of this brush and just make a little mark. There, we've done our first paint mark. And then I'm just really lightly just sort of going to tap out a shape that looks like a ghost, a furry ghost. And when we add the brown fur onto our cute little hedgehog, you can make it bigger if you felt like it ended up looking too small. But you do want, the painting is mainly about the hedgehog, so you do want to make a nice big arch. So if you feel like right now looking at it that you did it too small and it's way down here, go ahead and redraw it bigger. Everything gets painted over so you can paint over your original outline that you did. Real easy to fix. But this next part's super easy. I'm just going to start around the body of the hedgehog. And I'm just working close to the body first so that this area can dry faster, because I want to be able to add my brown to this pretty soon without it mixing too much in the blue. And this way it can dry. So you guys might notice I'm using a slightly different painting surface than you have. I am using something called canvas paper, which I just discovered recently. I think it's really cool. I kind of knew it existed, but never had bought any for myself. And I thought, this is great practice paper because it's real thin, but it has the texture of canvas. So, and you can stack your paintings together so that you're not taking up a huge amount of space. The reason I'm using it today is because right before I started to get ready to film this video, I realized that I had shipped out my last canvas yesterday to someone who ordered a painting kit, and I have boxes and boxes of it over in my storage unit. But I was ready to film now. I didn't want to take the time to have to go to my storage unit. So I'm using my canvas paper, and I cut it to the exact same size as the canvas you got in your kit, which is 11 inches by 14 inches. I like to use that size a lot. So we're just painting a random blue sky on here. I'll show you something fun you can do in a second here. If you want to make it look like maybe there's some hazy clouds in the sky, you can take your brush, you don't even have to wash it. Dip it in a little bit of just the pure white and just brush some white in there. And I just kind of smooth it out into the background so you'll have like a little patch of what looks like thin, fog-like clouds. So I'm not talking about the big, puffy cotton ball type of clouds that you see in the sky sometimes. Now, you're more than welcome to paint that kind if you want, but this hazy, thin, light, foggy-like cloud is really easy to do. So if you're a beginner, you might stick with doing something like that. But again, feel free to make the things you want on your painting. If you want puffy cotton ball clouds and you know how to do them, go for it. So I'm going to bring this paint all the way to the edge. I'll tell you a little secret about my first original painting while you guys are working. First, I am going to say I will probably paint this background a little faster than you do, and that's just because I need some of it to dry so I can move along. Don't feel like you have to race with me or anything like that. You can always pause the video and catch up and then unpause it and continue on with me. But go ahead and keep working on filling in your background real quick. And I was going to tell you guys about something, my secret about this painting. I originally had this big butterfly here and I didn't really like it. I felt like it kind of stole the show from the hedgehog. Like when you look, everything kind of looked a little too crowded and chaotic, and rather than just noticing this hedgehog, it was just too much. And I showed it to my daughter and she said, I like everything but the butterfly. And so I knew, okay, I thought the same thing without saying it to her. So I knew I had to paint it out. So it did have a butterfly on here, and it was just really big, and it was a really dark blue, and it didn't quite look right. So if you want to put a butterfly anywhere in here, you can do one, but I recommend doing a tiny one. And it's funny, if you look at this, you can actually tell that it's kind of patched over. You can see a little bit of texture left over from there. But sometimes that's how it goes. We change paintings as we go along, and you find what works and what doesn't work, and make it all the way you want it in the end. So I'm going to wash off my dad brush now. Hopefully you guys have got your background pretty close to where I'm at. I know all the years of teaching kids class, I kind of have a good feel for how fast kids paint, but you can definitely be one to take your time. Just make sure you use that pause button. I'm washing off dad brush, and I'm going to dry that off. And I'm going to set the dad brush down on the paper towel for a nap. And you know, I'm going to pick up my middle-sized brush, which I also refer to as mom brush, but you can call it whatever you want. You can give your brush a name. That's kind of fun. And we're going to make the deep brown that goes around the outside of the hedgehog. Now, I have never held a hedgehog, so I don't know if that's considered fur or what that is. And I don't even know if they're prickly. They kind of look like they might be slightly prickly, but I don't think they're super prickly because I see pictures of people holding them all the time. So if you guys know, you can comment in the comments on YouTube and let me know whether hedgehogs are soft or prickly and if that is fur or something else. Okay, so this is a tricky thing. We're going to mix brown, and the way you make brown is by mixing the 3 primary colors. So we're going to ignore black and white. But there are specific amounts of each color we need to put in. So this is kind of like following a recipe. If you've ever made cookies or anything like that, you have to have specific amounts of certain ingredients. And that's exactly what we're going to do with painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with equal scoops of each of these colors. And I'm going to scrape off. This is about the size of like a, I don't know, like a pea. Like a green pea, but it's red. Now I'm going to wash the brush, and I'm going to scrape off an equal sized amount of the yellow. And here I can see if I need more or less. That's about equal. Wash the brush. And now I'll scrape off about an equal little patch of blue. And now this part's kind of cool. We're just going to swirl them all together. So at first, it doesn't make the prettiest color. It's not like the prettiest brown ever. Mine is kind of a, it's really dark. It's what I would call like raw umber. There is a certain paint color you can buy called raw umber. It looks a lot like that. So what I did for my hedgehog painting is I scraped off another bit of yellow and put that in there. And you have to be careful because it can turn kind of greenish. Just stir it in and see how it goes. If it's turning too green, you're going to want to put a little more red in there. But the red can overpower things, so not a lot. Yeah, I want a warmer brown, so the red is going to warm that up. And usually by mixing, you get a big old splotch of color all over your palette. But this made a really nice brown. I'll just paint a line there. You can see that's a good brown for my cute little hedgehog. We're going to add some white to that later, but first let's use just the brown. Whenever you feel like you've got your mix ready, just play around with it. You won't need a ton of blue, but you might play around with adding a little more yellow and red. The blue will end up making it a little more purple. Okay, so I'm going to go around. You see what I'm doing here? I'm kind of flicking outward into the background. Just starting to go with that kind of hedgehog shape. I'm just going to call it fur. Hedgehog fur. I assume that's what it is. It's funny, years ago I went on a international cruise. So it was a big boat that took us to Mexico. And they gave us assigned seating every meal we ate. We sat with the same couple. And our couple was from England. And for some reason the topic of hedgehogs came up. And they couldn't believe that people in the United States buy them for pets. Because they're like, they're a pest. We try to chase them out of our yard. So I thought that was really funny. And I told them, well, now here in the U.S., I don't know how much they are now, but back then they were like $100. And they were just shocked. That's my hedgehog story I'll always remember. I think they're adorable and I would love to have one, but my dog has a really high prey drive, which means anything small he's going to take after and try to get. And he's killed squirrels in our yard before, which was very sad. So I know that a hedgehog probably wouldn't fare very well. So we won't even try that. Okay, so now I need to give my hedgehog, you can see on the original here, the forehead is a little lower, and this is probably a good 2 inches above the hairline here, the fur line, whatever it is. So I'm going to bring this down. In fact, I'm going to sort of tap out a little face area. So it's kind of rounded. And then I want to fill all that in. It looks really funny now. You know what it looks like? I'm painting a really bad wig. Or like a really bad costume. When I was growing up, my dad had this funny mask that had hair like this. So that's what I keep thinking about when I'm painting. It's like, oh, it looks like that mask with the really bad hair. And I am getting close to running out of paint. I didn't mix quite enough color, I think. It's always hard to know how much. You can always remix, and I don't want you to stress out if it's not the exact same shade of brown. Because just like dogs and cats, I'm sure hedgehogs probably have different shades of fur color here and there. I know, like looking at pictures of them when I was designing that, there's gray, there's beige, there's reddish brown, there's more of a grayish brown, all kinds of different colors. But you can always tell it's a hedgehog. So this looks about how I want it to look, like a really ugly wig. And I'm going to now add white to what I have remaining here, and hopefully it'll be enough. So stir that around. You're going to get a light, very light hot chocolatey color, but lighter than hot chocolate, because it's like hot chocolate that's made with a lot of milk. So by putting more white in the color, you're going to lighten it up nicely. So it does make, it's almost like a light brownish gray. The technical term is probably taupe, which is a really weird name, but I know that when I've painted walls in the past, taupe is the color that it ends up being. Taupe is the name of the color of this like kind of brownish gray. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just filling in the face, and look how I'm sort of flicking into the dark brown hair a little bit right at the edges. So all around these edges, that's what I'm going to do. Flick upward at the top, and then as you go along the sides, you're going to flick in here. And it's okay if the wet paint mixes together. That's what it did for me. That's what it's doing right now, and it ends up looking totally fine. What's interesting to me is mixing a brown from scratch. You can get lots of different shades. When I'm looking at my original sort of tannish color in here was more yellow. So I must have had more yellow in that mix. I was actually trying to get this color. So it worked for me this time. Now, I have a pretty big area in here to fill in. So feel free, this medium-sized brush, it's not huge. And I'm going to give it a rest, I'll wash it off. And I'm gonna pick up my big brush just to fill in the rest of this. And hopefully, I will have enough paint. And hopefully you will too. But if you need to stop, pause the video, mix some more, it's not a big deal. Just try your hardest to get the same color, but don't stress if it's not exactly the same. I just sort of brush it out. If it's not the exact same shade when I remix color, I just kind of brush it outward a little bit to make it sort of blend. I saw a lot of cute hedgehogs online when I was looking at pictures of them and paintings of them. There are some really cute hedgehogs that you can follow on Instagram. They're pet hedgehogs, and their owners have created this adorable account where they dress them up. So the canvas paper I'm working with dries really fast, a little bit faster than probably this normal canvas does. But also I'm under some heated lights, and that will make the paint dry a little faster too. So you might still have pretty wet paint. I'm kind of battling with paint that's drying a little bit too fast for my liking, but I'm just gonna work it out. There we go. Still looks like a bad wig, just a bad wig with a furry face. You know what it looks like? Right now it looks like we're painting the top of Bigfoot's head. And down here, his eyes, we just can't see him. Down here is his mouth, and then his giant body. This is Peekaboo Bigfoot. It's kind of fun to see how the painting sort of evolves into being something completely different. So now I have an idea to do a Bigfoot painting sometime. I think that would be really fun. I am in Oregon, and maybe some of you guys are too. And Oregon is known for supposedly having lots of Bigfoot sightings. I have never seen one. I don't think I want to. I think I'm okay with not ever having seen one. I don't know how I would act if I saw one. I'm just trying to make a little more brown, but it's becoming very green. It's really a process. So hopefully you guys are catching up while I'm playing around with color here. I just mixed up a little more brown in case I need a little more. I've got some patches here that could use a little more. And I didn't get the exact same shade, but I'm just gonna put, my hedgehog has highlights in his hair. I mean, what can I say? He's just liking going to the salon, getting some different colors, highlights and lowlights put in his hair. Why not? All right, we're gonna leave our hedgehog slash Bigfoot forehead alone. And we're gonna work up here because this should be fairly dry now. If it's not dry for you and it's still really, really wet, have your parent or an adult help you with a hairdryer. You can dry it real quick, like 30 seconds. It'll dry with a hairdryer. So we do that a lot in the studio because sometimes you don't have time to wait. So you can pause the video, hair dry it if you need, and continue on with us. So I'm going to teach you how to draw a really easy basic rose, and it's kind of a impressionist rose because I didn't take the time to draw individual perfect little petals like, these flowers have individual petals. I wouldn't call them perfect, but they are individual petals. So this is more of an impressionist rose where it's just the suggestion of a rose. So you look at it and you probably saw this, the shape, the green in the leaf, and you probably, hopefully, thought that's a rose. So that's kind of impressionism for you. We're looking at something that suggests that it is something, and in your brain it registers as what it's supposed to be, hopefully. But one of the things I have thought about with these kind of roses is if you've ever been in a vegetable garden and you've seen where like cabbage grows, it kind of looks like you're looking down on a thing of cabbage or a bunch of lettuce or something like that. So I don't know if that'll help you visualize it, but we're gonna paint it. Let's do it. Let's pick a color. So for this one, I made a light pink, and instead of just mixing white and red to make pink, I had a lot of this light blue left, and I thought, if I put a little tiny bit of red in that, I bet it's going to turn kind of lavenderish because of the blue, and it did. So you can do that if you want, or you can just mix white and red. Just depends on what you like. You don't need a ton of this paint. And just play around until you get the color you like. You might have to add more red, you might have to add more white. You might even throw a little more light blue in there. Just play around until you get a nice, pretty pink or lavender that you like. And this is the pale one. It's not super duper dark. Like, we don't have a ton of dark red in there. All right, so this is how I paint a rose like that. I take my middle-sized brush, so mom brush or whatever you call it, and I do a little curved like C shape, And then over here, I do a C shape that's kind of overlapping. Or, you know, you can think of them as a comma. This looks like a comma, and this is like an upside down comma. And then I'm going to do another one here. And then I'll do another one here and here. And they're just short little comma shapes. And I just kind of go around and around. You can already see it's starting to form into kind of a rose-ish shape. But what I try to do is put these little comma shapes like in areas centered, like here I've got a gap, so I'll put one right above there. So that way you get more separation, like there's separation of petals. And you'll have blue in between, don't worry about that. We're gonna fill that in with another color. This is about as big as I wanna make it. If you wanna add a little more pink back in some of these gaps, you can, but you want to leave some of them blue because we're going to put some dark red in there. That turned out pretty good. We want to save some of this color. We're going to use it in a minute for another rose. Let's wash the brush. Kind of looks like a firework. Like a painted firework. And now I'm going to take my clean mom brush, dip it in just the red paint, and I'll concentrate the red on the areas that are light blue sky. Still doing that comma shape, or that little curved mark shape. I keep calling it a comma, but just whatever helps you visualize it, whether you call it a C shape, or just a little curved line, or a comma. And it should mix with that light pink that's already on there. Mine's drying so fast, so it's not mixing as good as it did when I painted the original. But I'll take it, it works. You can always go back, like I'll wash my brush. If I felt like, you know, I got too much red in there, I really want to go back and put a little more light pink in there, you can do that. Short little brush strokes though, because you want to leave some of the red, because that's what's giving it depth. That is what's making your rose look like it's got darker areas where the petals are kind of folded together and haven't opened yet. That's pretty good. I'm gonna rock that rose. I like it. Hopefully you had a good time with yours. If you don't like it and it turned out weird, it's not a tragedy. It's real easy to just, you can make a big petaled flower to go over it. Just draw one of these. I know a lot of you guys already know how to draw those. Most of the time they have 5 petals. This one ended up with 6. But really, I could take my little brush and just draw. I don't want to brush on this, so I'm just using the handle to show you. I could draw big petals and have this big daisy-like flower if your rose didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. But hopefully it did. Now I'm going to do another smaller one right about here, and this one we're doing opposite colors. So we're starting with the red, and then we're going to bring the light pink in. And it's just a little bit smaller, maybe about half the size, kind of, sort of. So I'll take my mom brush, middle-sized brush with the red, and I'm going to do a little curved line, so a C shape, and now a comma down below it. So it should look like you're painting funny little symbols at first. And then I just keep going around, kind of concentrating on where the gaps are. Trying to, at least. They're just short little slashes. Think of them like it's a school of fish swimming in a circle and we're looking down from the top of the ocean. Like sardines, they swim like that. They swim in a giant circle. I think it's sardines. So if you were in a boat and you were looking down, you would just see that. Looks like a hurricane. All right, I'm going to wash the brush now. And now I will go for my light pink, which I saved a little bit of. If you didn't end up having any to save, you can just remix a little bit more. White and red, it doesn't have to be that pink. It can be just a standard white and red pink. And then go through and kind of concentrate on the areas that are blue. Quick little swift brush strokes here. So we want light pink and red showing, both. By concentrating on the spots that are light blue, I'm not mixing everything together. So I have both colors, the light pink and the red. Okay, these ended up being pretty close in color. Like on my original, this one was a lot more red, but that's okay. Just like we did with this one, you can go back. If you feel like, I really wanted that rose to be really red, you can come back with a little red and do short little swift brush strokes to bring more red back into it. But now you know how to paint a pretty easy rose. And like I said, if it doesn't work out, turn it into a daisy. At least you practice it. The other thing you can do is this light blue that you made, it covers really good. I covered a whole entire dark blue butterfly with it. So you can let this dry. Make sure you dry it, because if you try to paint blue over this right now, it's going to turn everything pink. Which, I don't know, maybe you want a pink sky. So have an adult help you hair dry it and then paint the blue over the top if you're deciding that you want to cover it. Now, I've had to do that a lot myself, as you know. As I told you, my secret of the butterfly. The butterfly that was once there but had to fly away. All right. So now I want to paint some white along here. Along the fur, the hedgehog fur. We'll paint some black ears in a little bit, but for now I want to get the white spiky stuff on here, and that's what you see when you look at a hedgehog. You see that white with the dark brown under it. And you can use either your baby brush or your mom brush. I'm going to choose mom brush. I feel like that's a good one for this size. Now I can't unsee this as Bigfoot's forehead. That's really funny. That's going to take a while for me to unsee. So I'm going to just dip this brush tip in a little bit of white and come along the top here. And this is just a quick little swift flick. It's like we're adding white highlights to our hedgehog's hair. And I'm going to go all along the dark brown. You can leave this as it is. Here's what it would look like if I used the baby brush. I'm just going to get a little bit finer spikes. And you can certainly do a mix of both. Maybe you want some areas, like maybe around the face, you want it to be really fine lines like this. But maybe down some of the sides and the larger areas, you want to use bigger, bolder brush strokes. It's up to you. You can also adjust, even if you're using a bigger brush, if you use really light pressure, which means you're not going to push very hard, like just let your brush really lightly glide the tip of the bristles on the canvas, you can create smaller lines that way. The baby brush, it takes a long time if you're using the baby brush to do the whole thing, because it is so small. But feel free to use it, like I said, here and there. I feel like I haven't taught a kids video in a while. I've been doing all these other classes for adult painting kits, which have paintings that take a couple hours and a lot more involved. So this, I feel a little rusty teaching a kids class. Plus our studio's been closed because of the COVID-19, so I haven't been on stage teaching kids that way either. So I guess I'm sort of waking back up with teaching kids. So you can probably notice I'm sort of flipping between the two brush sizes. We get to be a hairdresser today. We're giving our hedgehog some bleached out highlights here. He really wanted white. So that's what we're doing. Make sure you're leaving some dark brown showing, because that's what's going to give this the depth. So you have dark brown with the white as the highlight, and then suddenly it looks like, hey, I've got this multicolored furry thing going on. Right now we're looking at an old Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whose hair is turning gray. He's hiding in the woods with some floating roses above his head, some floating stemless roses. That's funny. When we add the ears on, it will really stop looking like Bigfoot. All right. So let's go ahead and wash all of our brushes. we're gonna work on some more flowers while the white dries. I need the white to dry before we paint ears on, because we paint the ears on in black, and if I were to paint them on right now, black with the wet white on there would turn gray, which I suppose wouldn't be a major tragedy, but I thought the ears looked nice in black. Nice, the ears looked nice in black. Apparently I can't talk tonight. All right, let's talk flowers. So our hedgehog ends up with a lot of cute flowers on its head. Somebody came by and decorated it. He got his hair done and then he got decorated and then he's holding flowers. So all of these we do later, obviously, because this is all wet with our white stuff. So let's go ahead and do these guys, little cute daisies. I made orange by mixing red and yellow. It's more yellow than red. Quite a bit more yellow than red to make this color. But feel free to use any color that is singing to you today. You can have white daisies. You could have dark blue daisies. You could have purple daisies by mixing red and blue together. Let's see, yeah, I'm looking at my color chart. It's probably harder for you guys to see, but yeah, I have a dark purple by using 2 parts blue, 1 part red. That's the recipe. But I'll go ahead and do the orange just because that's what's on the original, and a lot of you guys might want to paint what's on the original. So I'm going to scrape off a blob of yellow. We don't use a lot of yellow in this painting. And now I'm going to scrape off about half that amount of red, maybe even less than half. I'll do less than half. Oops, I just put my knuckle in white. That is normal. It happens all the time to me. So then I get, it's kind of a reddish orange. I could use that. It's a really pretty color. I'm going to wipe off the white paint I just got on myself. But you could turn this to peach by mixing some white into it. So there's your options. Or you could turn it to be more of a yellow orange by mixing more yellow in it. So I'm going to sort of do a peachy tone. That's very close to what I did on that original. And you might decide you want to use your baby brush to sketch your flower out. I think I'll do that just to show you, but I'm going to leave this paint on the Mom brush because I'm going to use that paint really soon to just fill in the petals. So you know what, in fact, I'll dip my baby brush on that. I like to draw the center of the flower first, just so I have something to work from. And then, so I just drew a little round circle about the size of a marble. And then I'll just make one big loopy petal that points straight up. And then I'm going to do a loopy petal that points out to this, kind of out to the side and up here. I think of them like a 5-pointed star. We've got one petal that points up, one on either side that kind of points out and up, and then 2 on the bottom that point down and out. Just like a star. So this one's going to go off my canvas here on one side. That's okay. So I've got 2 more petals to add. Maybe you can fit 3 on there. And it can touch the hedgehog's head. I don't think he'll mind. He's got flowers all over his head anyways. So there we go. I'm going to set baby brush in the water and fill in all these petals with the Mom brush just because they're on the larger side. So filling in with the small brush is really time consuming and can drive you crazy. So whenever I can fill in with a little bit bigger brush, I tend to do that. I tend to be kind of impatient, so it's probably something I could work on. I've been known to start lots of art projects and not finish them because I just get impatient, or I lose the focus, or I lose whatever was inspiring me. I have a lot of abandoned artwork. Then sometimes I go back to it, years later. I'm like, why did I set that painting aside? I really like it. It's just the way we work. All right, now I'm going to do another little orange flower. Now keep in mind you can do a different color if you want. I have a little tiny one down here, so I'll do a smaller center. So this one's smaller than a marble. And then I'll do that loopy petal that goes straight up. Smaller than this one because I'm kind of tucking it in a little space here. Then a loopy petal that goes up and out. And one that's gonna go off the canvas into my tape here. Then one that's pointing down and out on the bottom. And one on the other side. So you see how it is sort of like a 5-pointed star, like I said. Boom, boom. If these were pointy, it'd look like a star. All right, baby brush, go take a bath. Mom brush, you're up for filling in of flower. Not too shabby. We'll add the centers to these later. And if you want to add anything up in here, more flowers, maybe, how about I show you how to make a little butterfly? Because I think we've got time to, and it's a cute add-on. And now that I told you I did it, you probably want to see what it looks like. I just won't do it as big as the first one that I had to cover up. And that's the reason I had to cover up. It was way too big. Let's think of a color here. How about, let's try purple, if you want. I'm going to do red and blue, about equal parts. That makes kind of a grape soda color. I tend to like a little more blue than red for my purples. So it's more of a violet color. And then let's see what it looks like if I add just a little bit of white. Maybe a little more. Mixing with the baby brush is not what I should be doing. It requires a lot of stirring. Okay, so I mixed a little white into it, not to make lavender, but just to lighten it a tiny bit, more so that you can see the color. And the way that I draw butterflies is, I'm just gonna do a real tiny one. I draw a heart first. And that's the upper wings, and in fact, you can color them in. If you don't like your butterfly, you can turn it into a flower. And then I just do a smaller upside down heart. So it's smaller because these little wings on the bottom should be a little smaller than those upper powerful wings. So you see how it's an upside down heart? There's two hearts overlapping. And when I fill it in, you don't see the heart shape. You see a butterfly. That's pretty cute. And if you don't like it, you can turn it into a flower. No harm, no foul, easy fix. Or you can dry it and paint blue over it like I did with the original. I am going to add more to that because right now it just looks like a little floating purple clover. And I need to add the body and the little antenna and probably some decorations on the wings. But I need that to dry. So let's go ahead now, and I've got something sticking to my painting here. I don't know what that is. A piece of cardboard. Let's go ahead and mix up our green stem color. We're gonna need a bit of this because we do some greenery around the face too. So this is such a pretty emerald green, and you make that by mixing blue and yellow. Some of you guys probably already knew that. I'm gonna take my Mom brush. Let's start off with equal parts. So scrape off a little yellow. I do try to wash my brush when I switch colors. Sometimes I get lazy, or I just forget, or I go too fast. So I'll scrape off about the same amount of blue. Mix those together, you get this beautiful deep green. That is so pretty. I love that color. And you can alter it by scraping a little more yellow in there. Let's see what that looks like. I want to do 2 shades of green that I can pull from. So I've got my emerald green here, and now I'm going to take a little yellow and I'm going to mix that into a small portion off the edge here. So I have more of what I would consider a lime green. I can just keep adding more yellow to it. I think I'm going to use up all my yellow. So there, I've got 2 really pretty shades of green. A yellow green and a deep green. So I'm going to set that aside real quick. My Mom brush has a big old globby amount of paint on it from mixing. So I don't want to draw any fine stems with that because they would not be fine stems. They would be big old blobby stems. So I've got a good amount of paint on the brush. I'll just use it by dipping the baby brush into there. And let's just do this stem. It's going to curve down and off the canvas. And the leaves are super easy to draw. You can draw them rounded like the flower petals, or you can do kind of an almond shape. And I'll fill that in. If you have room and you want to put one on the other side, go ahead. They're pointy on the ends. Like I said, I always just use the analogy of comparing it to an almond. That seems to help. And now I want to draw another stem for this one. It's just going to curve off over here. So maybe our little hedgehog has stumbled into a rose garden and he's short and tiny, so he's down below all these. So we're just seeing the curved stems. And I've got room to do a nice big leaf here. So I'll draw it with the baby brush, but you know what? I think I'm going to fill it in with mom brush. Carefully. It's not a huge shape. And if you have room and you want to paint another leaf, it doesn't have to be the same size. In fact, I prefer it if they are slightly different sizes, because if you've ever gotten a bouquet of flowers or even just picked flowers or whatever, you'll see the leaves are not all the exact same size. And now we've got these two to put some stems on, so I'll do one that goes off, kind of just bends off the side here. If you've got room and want to do a little curvy leaf. I did a rounded leaf on that one. And then this one too, it's just going to go off. And you can have it go behind another flower. That's totally fine. They would do that in nature. Little rounded leaf. That's cute. I like that. Ooh, don't have a lot of room here. Baby leaf. And we want to save our greens that we mixed because we're going to be using it, like I said, for the greenery around the flowers on our hedgehog's head. But what I want to do really quick, we decorate these flowers a little more. Let's go ahead and paint a center in on those. I did yellow for the centers on these, but you can do any color you want. And you know, in fact, I'm going to do a different color just to be different. So orange flower. You know, purple is a good complementary color to orange. So I made that butterfly in purple, so I had some left. I'm going to do a purple center, but you do whatever you want. Pink, white, dark blue, whatever sounds like a good color combo to you. There we go. That was easy enough. And now I feel like they look a lot better. All right. So our hedgehog is now going to start becoming a hedgehog and be less Sasquatch-like. No more Bigfoot forehead with a bad wig. We're going to turn it into a hedgehog. So let's look at the ears. They are black and really they're mini-sized Mickey Mouse ears. Mini ears. They're just little scoops and they go out beyond the fur just a little bit. They're pretty far on each side of the head, so they're not way up here. They're going to be, you know, down fairly far. And then we paint these white hairs over them later when they dry. So let's take either your mom or baby brush, whatever one feels better for drawing to you. I think I drew them with the baby brush and filled them in with the mom brush originally. And so I'm going to start right here at the hairline where the light beigey color turns into dark brown. And I'll just do a little mouse ear here. And before I color it in, I'm just going to kind of work my way across to try to even them up. And I think this one's going to go over part of my flower. Might hurt your brain a little bit to do that, but don't let it bother you. If this was a real hedgehog standing in a real flower bed, that's what would happen. All right, now I'm going to fill those in, but I'm going to use mom brush to fill them in. So just fill them in from here on up. Oh, Mickey Mouse ears. All right, looking a little more hedgehog-like, less Bigfoot-like. I like to look at the things that I'm painting as I'm going along and see like what else could it become. This could be like really big eyes, and it could be like the underside of like a really hairy frog. Like we're looking at its throat and mouth here. Black bulgy eyes, hairy. Ooh, that would be a really ugly frog. But it's kind of funny to do that, to look at him and see it as something else. We're going to change that right now, though. We're going to add nose and mouth and face, all that cute stuff. Let's have a look. The eyes are smaller and they're spaced pretty far apart. I have a nice distance between those two. They're kind of close to the top. I mean, they're kind of close to the hairline. That makes a cuter face when you can kind of squish it together. It makes a really cute face that way. And then the nose is shaped a lot like a heart. It's just rounded on the bottom rather than pointy. And the mouth is super simple. All done with black. All done with your baby brush. All right. Let's start with the nose because that will help us place the eyes. So I'm going to, looking at my original, it's probably about 2 inches from the hairline down to where the top of the nose is. So how about this? Kind of eyeball it. You can use a pencil if you want. Just make a little dot. The tiniest nose ever. And then I'm going to turn that into, like I'm starting to draw a heart. See, just like you would draw a heart on paper. But instead of going down to a point, we're going to kind of round it. So it ends up being shaped like a black jelly bean. That's probably a better comparison. Black jelly bean. And we'll go ahead and fill that in. Still using the baby brush, just because I'm working with a smaller, finer shape. Now my hairy frog has a mouth. Sorry, I'm making you guys see all kinds of weird images here. Let's get some eyes on there, so I'll stop doing that. So I do sometimes like to just draw a tiny dot and then line it up over here, because then I know exactly where I want to place my eyes. Actually, it's kind of cute like that. But I'm going to turn those into a little circle about the diameter of a pencil eraser. Kind of, sort of, thereabouts. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. Maybe you want bigger eyes. You can absolutely have them that way. Having the face really squished together gives it that cute hedgehoggy look. And I can see already my eyes are, they're not spaced perfectly. There's a lot bigger space between here and here than there is here. But I'm not going to worry about it because I don't think it's going to matter in the end when I have all the flowers on and all the other stuff going on. And now I'm going to draw the mouth. So instead of doing like a long line and then hooking up on either side, I wanted to keep the mouth really short and close to the nose. So you can see that I just did like up, it looks like an upside down bird. So I'll show you how to do that. Right in the middle bottom of the nose, I'm going to go out on one side, and then I just try to match it up on the other side. Carefully. It's okay if it's not exact. One thing I like to do, because I think it's really cute, I like to do a little black dot at the corner of the mouth. And I sometimes do that in illustrations as well. It just looks really super cute. Aww. So cute, and now I don't see it as a weird Bigfoot or hairy frog anymore. Thank goodness. It looks like a hedgehog, finally. And we're going to add some highlights to the eyes and the nose in white, but we're not going to do that yet. We want that to dry up a bit before we do that. We get to give the hedgehog some pink cheeks along with little pink hands. I think we could do that now. I think if we do the hands first and then go up and do the cheeks, these will be nice and dry so we don't run into any issues with accidentally getting gray cheeks. Wash your baby brush off really good. I'm just brushing it real lightly back and forth across the bottom of the cup. You don't want to press hard because you'll end up fraying your brush. So I just really lightly swoosh it across the bottom of the cup. And then while it's damp, I dry it off and then I'll kind of reshape it with my fingertip. So it comes to a nice little point. let's make a nice light pink color for the hands and cheeks. All right, my palette's looking pretty epic right now. Scrape off a little red, and you want to scrape off more white than red. Stir it around. You can add more of each until you get a color you like. You might like a darker pink. You might like a lighter pink. Mainly what you want to do, and I had to do this with the original, hold it up to the color of your hedgehog face and make sure it stands out. This definitely does. So I think it'll be okay with this sort of bubblegum pink that I did. And for the hands, I kept it really simple. I was thinking like he's holding the flower, so this is like the back of the hand. So do a C shape. And then you're going to sort of draw 3 little short fingers. Or 4 if you can fit 4. But I think of them as having little tiny claw-like fingers, like a mouse. They're probably technically a rodent of some kind. So it's shaped a lot like a Pac-Man ghost, actually, with just a little bit longer tendrils to make fingers. I don't know what they call that on the Pac-Man ghost. The Pac-Man ghost is shaped like this. And so our hedgehog hand is going to be shaped more like this. I'm trying not to run into the black down there. But you see the difference? This one looks like, yeah, there's actual fingers. This one looks more like a funky ghost. Funky little Pac-Man ghost. Okay, so I'll do that on this side too. Do the rounded part. And then come down and make the 3 fingers, or 4, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it ends up going off the canvas a little. Oh, I have 1 giant hand and 1 little hand. What in the world? I think I wasn't really looking at this original hand I drew. Sorry, hedgehog, you're just gonna have big hands. You were meant for picking flowers. That's why we're gonna draw a flower in the hand. All right, that works. Not too shabby. Pretty simple little hedgehog hands. Now I've got the pink on my brush already. Looks like I've got a little purple on there somehow. And I'm gonna take right under the eyes and I just swirl my brush around to make little round pink cheeks. How cute is that? Right under each eye. If you have to move this over because the mouth maybe goes out too far, you can definitely do that. It could be out further. There. Super cute. Love it. Sorry, hedgehog. You kind of look like you have lobster claws. That's okay. We're still gonna rock it. All right, let's go ahead now and talk about flowers on the head. I have a few of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're basic. I did another rose, and then I did mostly the daisy shapes. And this one I didn't even decorate it. I wonder if I forgot about that. That's funny. Usually I think I would decorate it. So, okay. And then I have little leaves and other greenery poking out, which I did later. Let's go ahead and start with a simple daisy. Baby brush. And I'm gonna use red, just like I did in the original. And how about, I'm gonna put it right here. So just like on this one, we're gonna draw the little circle for the center. And then the swoop upward for a little loopy petal. And then I do one going out to the side here. The ear on mine, I can tell, is still a little bit wet. So if you're getting really close to the ear on yours, you'll want to be careful not to overlap, or make sure you hair dry that part of your painting before painting the red or whatever color flower you're doing, so that you don't end up accidentally smearing some black into it. I do like how this one comes down on the forehead. That's really cute. And then I'm going to pick up Mom Brush to fill those in, just because I like a little bit larger brush for that. Other little critters you could paint on here would be a ladybug. That would be really cute. And easy to do. I always think of these things later after I've done the original. I'm like, oh, why didn't I do that? There's lots of things you could add. You can go back to your painting days and days later and add whatever you want. All right. So there's one cute flower. I could leave it just like that. I think it looks really cute with just that red flower right there. But I'm going to go ahead and put another rose on here. I am looking at my color palette. I have a lot of this orange left. Well, maybe not as much as I thought. Maybe I will mix a little yellow into it. I know I've got yellow here somewhere. There it is. I have to be a contortionist to reach for it. I'm going to put a little more yellow on my palette. There we go. So I made a little bit yellower orange than that. And remember our instructions for painting the rose. We just do a little C shape and then a comma. And then lots of little swoops. If you had trouble with this earlier, I wouldn't recommend putting it on your hedgehog because you'll probably end up having the same issues with it until you have practiced and practiced and gotten it down. Sorry, hedgehog, looks like you have a fireball on your head at the moment. I'm going to wash the brush, and now I'm going to mix a little more red into my orange color to do the darker parts of the rose. There. I mean, it still kind of looks like a fireball, but when I add leaves to it, it'll be totally fine. Okay. I'm going to use the baby brush now and paint on a couple more little daisies, and then I'll probably be done with the flowers on the head outside of adding centers and the greenery. And oops, I had red paint all over my baby brush. Didn't realize it. You know, I'm going to do a white daisy. Where should I put it? How about right here? Oops, I forgot to draw the center first. Little round center, and then a loopy petal. Loopy petal, loopy petal. I put this one a little more on the hedgehog's forehead, just so it shows up a little bit more, because I feel like it would get lost up in all this white. And I probably would be right with that. It looks cute down here. Actually, I really like that. And now, oh, what color should I use next? I do have a lot of pink left. I have a ton of blue though. Let's see. Maybe I'll make a different shade of lavender by mixing dark blue in with some of my pink. So here's what I did here. Scraped off a little of this. That makes a nice color. I would call this color periwinkle, actually. And I don't know where that term comes from for the color, but whenever I see color like this, a lot of times they call it periwinkle. And where should I put this one? How about right here next to the rose? And again, I forgot to draw the center first. Sometimes I just go for the loopy petals. But when I'm teaching, I need to remember, draw the center first. This flower ended up being bigger than I had planned on, but I think it's okay. I like it. So I'm going to use my mom brush to fill these petals in. Oh, that's such a pretty color. So I am open to suggestions for other animals you guys might want to paint. I like to do an animal painting, and Paul, who will also be teaching the kids classes on the videos for the crate, the kids crate, he likes to do landscapes. So in just a second, I will show you what your landscape painting this month is going to be. Here it is. You guys get to paint a sailboat. I really love this. That's really cute. It's got all the same colors we were using. Get to make some nice green to do the trees, and you can make your sailboat and sails any color you want. You get to learn a little bit about painting clouds, which is the puffy, cottony clouds. So that'll be fun. All right, we're not done yet. Let's let those flowers dry just a little bit before we paint centers. I want the ears to dry a tiny bit more before we paint the little white whisker things that go in the ears. How about we go back to our butterfly, which should be nice and dry. I'm gonna take the baby brush and black paint, and I'm going to paint the body of the butterfly, which we know is, it's an insect. And I always see them, they're a lot of times black, so I just do a black line dividing the wings. And then at the top, I want to do a little round head. Now the antenna, they're going to be pretty small. So we're going to want to use really super light pressure, which means you're not going to push very hard. Super duper duper light, just as light as you can possibly do. Like glide your tip of your bristles on there. It's hard to do. It takes some practice. But I'm just doing the cute little antenna. You can curl them under like this, or you can just have them go straight out. Whatever you like. Now it looks more like a butterfly. But I'm going to do something else to it. I'm going to use the handle of my brush, which makes a perfect little dot stamper. And I'm going to take, I'll do yellow. I'm going to stamp a dot on each upper wing. Then I'll wipe this handle off and pick a different color. How about pink? I'll do just a littler dot on this lower. That's cute. Super easy. So cute. Much better than the giant crazy looking butterfly I did on that original. So the handle dots are great. And that's how I did these and that and that and that. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and we need to paint the flower in our hedgehog's hand, but we'll do that in a minute. Let's go ahead and I'll take white. I'll dip my handle of the brush in white, and I'm just going to go around this purple center with a little row of white dots. This is such a simple way to make something look a lot more decorated and cute. Love that. So easy. Do that here too. And let's see, it looks like my red flower is pretty dry, so I can just cram a bunch of dots in for the center of this one. I've seen flowers like that, like poppies have lots of little dots that make up an overall center. I like that, that's fun. And then my blue flower, let's see, how about a yellow center? That would be good with that. It's kind of a bluish purple periwinkle color. So I think African violets have this color combo, like purple and yellow, if I remember right. Nature knows what it's doing. I'll trust her. And now I think like the idea of a yellow center for this one too, because then it's more like a daisy, like a true daisy. Although daisies tend to have a little bit pointier petals, but in my hedgehog world, they can have round petals. So make sure that every time you switch and that you finish, you wipe off the handle of your brush, because if the paint dries on there, you get this big old glob. It looks like the handle of your brush is wearing a funky hat, but then the next time you go to do tiny dots, it won't work very well. They'll be big and blobby. So I do like to clean it off every time. And I'm going to now do the highlights in the eyes and nose, and we'll do the whiskery parts in the ear, and then we'll draw the flower down here, and then we'll finish up with all our greenery. Let's go ahead and take baby brush. I cleaned it off. We're using the brush end now, not the handle. I'm going to dip the very tip of the bristles in the white. I just want to pick up a tiny bit. So you can see I don't have very much paint on the brush. We don't want to glob it in there. I'll do a quick little highlight across the top of the nose. So that makes it look like the nose is shiny. And then in the upper right corner of the eye, I'm just going to do just inside the eye, the black part, I'll do a little curve in white. And then I'm going to do that over here too, opposite. So see how like this one curves this way and this one curves this way? And then just add an angle from that down here in the inner corner of the eye, a little dot, and same thing here. So that's a really cute way to make their eyes look really shiny. Looking super cute. It's funny how different the colors are. Like, look at that. This one is a more brown beige, and this one is a more gray. It could be also the lighting in this room when I was mixing color. Can be any factor, any number of things, but it's the same exact paint. That's what's baffling. Guess there's a lot of different brown colors you can make. So I'm going to take my white on my baby brush and I'll flick inward into the black ears. Right at the base of the ear, you're flicking up and inward. So they have these cute little fuzzy hairs that grow over the bottom edge of their ears. If you have a cat or a dog, you can look and they also have the same thing. Most of them. In different colors. That's cute. All right, let's get the flower down where his little hand is going to be holding it. You get to choose whatever color you want. I'll go ahead and do the red just because I did that on the original. I felt like it stood out really well. All right, so I'll do the center this time. Little tiny center, little tiny petals. It's just a little hedgehog-sized flower. It's okay if it overlaps the hand a little bit. In a little bit after this dries some, we'll paint a green stem that goes kind of in between the fingers so it looks like he's holding it. Getting ready to sniff it. See if it has a fragrance. See if it makes him sneeze. That's what happens to me this time of year. I start sneezing a lot. Lots of pollen in the air. All right, so it's just going to be a floating flower for a little bit. And we are going to, I'm going to add a little more yellow to my rose here. As it dried, it got kind of see-through. And that happens a lot. It's just the paint sometimes can dry kind of transparent. So I'll just hit it up with a second coat of any spot that maybe looks a little too see-through to me. Still looks like a fireball on the head. And let's paint some fun green leaves. Hopefully your green hasn't dried on your palette too much, but you can see I have the yellow green in here. I have dark green in different areas. You want to be careful where we painted this white. It's going to take a bit to dry. So I'm going to work on areas where I know the flower or whatever's behind it is nice and dry. So let's go ahead and let's go with the dark green. I'm using the baby brush. And you may have to remix green. Just remember, I'll give you the recipe here. It was equal parts blue and yellow for the first emerald green, this one here. And then I just pulled in more yellow over here to make this more lime green. All right, I love doing these little fern-shaped things, whatever they are, a little whimsical. This reminds me of, I can't remember, some kind of peas, sweet peas. Yeah, it reminds me of sweet peas. The only reason I know that is because I used to decorate cakes, and sometimes we had to learn how to pipe sweet peas on the cakes when I took a class, and they're really easy. So I just go up and I make a little whimsical curve like this with the baby brush. It looks funny at first because it's just kind of out there, and then I go on the left side and I just make little dots or just little tiny leaves. Like that. All the way down this one side. Cute. And then I'll make, how about a little leaf coming out here? Coming down on the forehead, that's really cute. Fill that in. A lot of these flowers, I'll give 2 or 3 leaves. So this one up here across from that one looks good. It really is actually a lot like we're decorating a cake because you kind of have to plan a cake with flowers out the same way where you're like, okay, needs a leaf here and one right across here to balance it out. And I like this one that kind of comes down and curls. I'll have to show you that again. Another sweet pea looking thing. It comes down and curls into the face. And then this one I did the leaves on one side, or the little dot things. And on this one I did them on both sides. You can do either or both. So this is going to curl down here. My white on the ears is dry now, so that worked. Yours might still be wet, so just be careful. fun, cute. Our little made up flowers. We can make them up, make them whatever color you want. Poppies, daisies, irises, petunias, made up. So I'll do the little leaves on this side too, just to make it a little bit different. Cake decorating our hedgehog that used to be Sasquatch. It was a hairy frog and now finally became a hedgehog. So I think it's about time for me to use another green. I've used a lot of the emerald green here, so I want to throw in another green color. So that's my limey green, the one that has more yellow in it. I washed my baby brush. I'm going to use it again. And let's see, how about a nice big bright green leaf right here. Can go up above the hedgehog's head if needed, if it works out that way. When any of these dry, if you feel like you need to add a second coat of paint, like maybe it's a little too see-through, like I feel like my red flower here is a little see-through, so maybe later on I would add a second coat of red to it. But everything has to be dry before you do that. And you can make different size leaves, different sizes, different colors. All of that is always really good. Here I'll make maybe I'll do a rounded leaf. More of a teardrop shape. Maybe one that goes up this way too. One thing you can do that's fun, and it adds a nice level of decoration to your painting. You can always do it the next day or a couple days later. I could come through and some of these dark green leaves, once they're dry, I could outline them in the light green. Mine aren't quite dry enough yet, so it's kind of just mixing together. Or you can take and you can outline these light green leaves with the dark green. Anytime you can do little things like that, it just adds to the overall finished look of the painting. And you're learning something as you do it. Get to learn as you go. Every time you do something, even if you're just scribbling on paper, consider it practice. I had sketchbooks when I was little and I would fill them with all kinds of stuff. I'd create characters. I probably should have designed anime at some point. All right, this one needs some help. It needs a stem. I'm going to use the dark green and baby brush. Now this is where I was telling you we sort of go in between the fingers. So I have it goes over the first finger and then behind the second two. Little tricky there. So I'll go over the first finger. It's going to stop when I get to the second finger. And then I'll do another little line here. You could go over the third finger if you want. Maybe I'll do that because I am running out of room here. There, that's cute. And then I can add a leaf somewhere if you have space. And it needs a center. Let's pick a color. Any color. Maybe I'll do white. And any of these flowers, you can go through and you could trace them with a brighter color. Like white works really good for some of these. If you want. You can leave them without this. This is just kind of going a little extra, which I sometimes like to do, depending on the painting. I feel like this painting does allow you to go a little extra in some certain parts because it's got all those pretty decorative flowers. So you can see the difference between these two, how different it looks when you outline it. You could even do, this is a nice thing you can add too, where you do a line down the center of these petals. That's cute. I am just about done. Just about. I want to add just a little more red to my one red flower here where I can see through it and see hedgehog fur. So I'm using a little bit thicker paint and I'm being very careful because I see the green near it. The green leaves are not quite dry. So this is dangerous work here. There. so much fun, so cute, and there's so many things that you can add to this. I do like to do that. As you guys know who've taken classes from me, a lot of times at the end of the painting, I'll be, listen, this is what it would look like if you did this, and this is what it would look like if you did this, and how about we do this? You can stop at any point and call it done whenever you want, or you can keep adding. I thought earlier with this cute little butterfly, we could give it a little trail, like it's marking off where it's flying. I remember one time my grandma drew me a card. She was an artist, and she drew me a card with a butterfly on it, and she did something like this, where it looked like it did a little loop-de-loop. Maybe it came from the flower. That's cute. Thanks, Grandma. That was a great thing that I remember now that I'm way old and have kids of my own. All right, cute hedgehog. That was really fun. It's fun for me to see the difference between the two, even though I did both, and I literally did them just days apart from each other. And to see that the color difference is there's a difference there. The size of the eyes and nose and everything like that is different. Flowers are fairly similar. There's some definite differences. Outline some of these with pink, and I think I got everything though, and hopefully you guys had fun. Hopefully you learned a little bit, and hopefully you challenged yourself creatively. The most important thing when you're done is clean your brushes when you're absolutely done. But first we need to sign our painting. I pick whatever color I want. And today, you know, I think I'm gonna go with dark blue. And we wanna keep our signature pretty small so it doesn't suddenly, like you've done this beautiful flowery hedgehog and then you do your signature giant down across the bottom. I've seen that a lot. We wanna try to just keep it very small. But on there, being on there is super important because you designed it, you painted it, you were the artist. I just do my initials with the baby brush. They didn't turn out that great, but I'll still go with it. And yeah, make sure you clean your brushes and dry them off. A little warm soapy water is perfect for cleaning your brushes. That's all you need with the acrylic paint. And let them dry, and then you'll be all set for the next painting, which we'll be doing the cute sailboat. I showed you that already. There it is again. Start thinking about what color you want your sailboat to be, what color you want the sails to be, because you can do all of that when you paint with Paul. He'll be filming his video probably within a day or two and having that uploaded on YouTube. Hope you guys had a great time painting with me, and we'll see you next week for the sailboat painting, which start thinking about what color you want to do your sails and what color you want to do your boat. But keep painting, keep practicing, and have a good time. Talk to you later.